Time to look at the NFC playoff picture heading into Week 12. The calculations come from the Playoff Computer app. Check it out for your fantasy football leagues as we hit playoff crunch time. For an entire year, the good stuff is about the price of one beer. The Cowboys were the only thing keeping the NFC from completely losing the once invincible lead they had in interconference games. On the surface, that should lessen the pressure on wildcard teams absolutely needing to get to 10 wins. But because of the fairly big gap between the haves and the have-nots, that pressure is still on. Moving on to look at each team, the team of the highest statistical chance to make the playoffs is still the Eagles. Might have some in-house drama, but they keep winning. 8-2, 3.5 game lead over the Cowboys for the NFC gives them a 96% chance to win the division. It would actually be very difficult for them to get a wild card spot, as the only thing that could cause them to not win the division is a complete collapse, which would probably hinder wild card chances as well. They can effectively finish off the Cowboys this week, but the game is in Dallas. You never know. The Rams continue to keep winning as well. Join the Eagles at 8-2. Not quite the lock as are the Eagles, since they are in a 3-game division race. 92% to make the playoffs. They are one of a few NFC West teams in which the computer says 10 wins might not be all that safe, so they might need 3 more wins. 2 games against the Cardinals in the future should get them much of the way. I think my notes might have gotten shuffled around. The Bears are showing as the team with the 3rd highest chance in the NFC, leading the NFC North just barely over the Packers and Lions. Now, before we sell playoff tickets to Soldier Field, they have had on paper the easiest schedule so far, and they have on paper now the hardest, or at least tied with the hardest remaining schedule. Just one team of 7 remaining games that is currently under 500 play the Steelers this week at home, which might be one of their quote-unquote easy remaining games, with the Eagles on tap, as well as 2 with the Packers, and finishing 49ers and Lions. This game against the Steelers looks like a must-win to maybe be able to absorb some punches later. The Seahawks come in next, fell to 7-3 with the loss to the Rams. That puts them a game back in the standings for the NFC West, but with the head-to-head loss against both the Rams and 49ers that they might have to avenge. So there's a little bit of worry about in their 3 out of 4 chances to make the playoffs. But on the other side, Titans, Vikings, and Falcons for the next 3. As with the Rams, 10 wins might not end up being good enough for them, making these winnable games coming up potentially being must wins. The 49ers got Brock Purdy back and delivered with a victory over the Cardinals. Not that they were worried about ending in a tie with the Cardinals, but that gives them the season sweep. More importantly, it puts their division record up to 4-1. That could be very helpful in a tiebreaker with the Seahawks or even with the Rams. Additionally, currently they have a 7-2 conference record, which also might play very well in tiebreaker situations. And that gives them something the other 2 playoff contending teams from the NFC West don't have, and that is a credible chance that 9 wins might end up being good enough. They take on the Jekyll and Hyde Panthers this week. A win would put them on the brink with the Browns next before their bye. The Packers managed to beat the Giants to hold on to a playoff spot. With the tie against the Cowboys, unlikely they end up in a tiebreaker situation, although the possibility of tying the Cowboys at the end of the season isn't completely yet out of the picture. Tied with the Bears for hardest remaining schedule is going to make things tough. 3 division games coming up: Vikings, Lions, and Bears. So the NFC North could look like a juggling act for the next few weeks. Currently, they sit at 70% to make the playoffs. The Buccaneers have lost 2 in a row, the latest to Josh Allen, as they now sit a mere half game in front of the Panthers for the NFC South. Things aren't getting easier this week as they face the Rams, but afterwards their remaining schedule looks pretty good. Still have 2 against the Panthers, so add the NFC South to the list of divisions that aren't quite settled yet. The earlier wins against the Seahawks and 49ers, as well as the loss to the Lions, are starting to look like they may become relevant if the Buccaneers don't win the division. The Lions come in at number 8, which, like the Chiefs over in the AFC, is not something I was expecting to say, a number that isn't holding a playoff spot for a preseason Super Bowl contender. But just a game back from the Bears, and they beat them earlier, so they'll have a chance later to sweep and hold the head-to-head tiebreaker. Still at above a 50-50 chance to make the playoffs. Host the Giants this week to probably get back on track. Then a big game against the Packers. Knee deep in the playoff race are the Carolina Panthers, challenging the Buccaneers for the NFC South. Holding a decent conference record, that might be handy. Above a 50-50 chance to make the playoffs. But probably need to find 4 more wins, and they only have 1 remaining opponent currently below 500. 49ers and Rams on tap. They're going to need an upset in at least one of those. Have the 2 against the Bucs later on to maybe have a chance at stealing the division. The Cowboys are perhaps in no man's land. Still sorta in the playoff race, but not really. Without a lot of things going their way, really would need to win at least 5 more, and their schedule includes the Eagles this week, Chiefs next, Lions after that. If they can manage 2 upsets, we'll talk. The Vikings are down to a 1 in 10 chance to make the playoffs after the loss to the Bears and no longer control their own destiny. Like the Cowboys, pretty much out of it without some miracle level run. Like the Cowboys, some tough games upcoming: Packers and Seahawks, both away. Like the Cowboys, if they pull off 2 upsets, we'll talk. The Falcons have lost 5 in a row, as well as their starting quarterback. Other than they are only 3 back from the division with 7 to play, there is no good news in must-win territory, and they aren't holding any aces. The Cardinals are technically still alive in the NFC West, but I think it's safe to say the gamblers aren't lining up to place bets on them. needing to win out to have even a slight chance. The Saints are realistically out. The Commanders are realistically out. And the Giants are realistically out. That is it for now. Check out the Playoff Computer app for your fantasy or other league playoff race analysis needs. Enjoy your